The air was calm above the cotton fields of clouds, and the great silver bird of an airplane cut its way through the sky like a blade through silk. Inside, passengers rested in a strange unity, as if each soul had put its trust into the steady hum of the engines. The pilots in the cockpit sat like guardians of heaven's gate, their instruments glowing, their voices calm, their hands sure. But high above the earth, where the air thins and men grow weak, fate waits like a shadow. For on that flight, one destined to be remembered in whispers and legends, something unthinkable happened. Both pilots, protectors of hundreds of lives, suddenly grew pale, slumped forward, and blacked out. A silence more chilling than thunder filled the cockpit, and with it came a shudder in the air, a lurch in the belly of the plane, and the fearful realization that the sky had become a merciless master. In the cabin, where mothers hushed crying children and travelers flipped through books to pass the long hours, the shift was felt before it was understood. Drinks trembled on their trays, a cart rolled unattended, and passengers exchanged nervous glances. The overhead lights flickered, and the calm that had rested over everyone like a blanket was torn away in an instant. Somewhere in the middle rows sat a girl of 12. Her name was Clara Mae, a farm girl with wide eyes and a spirit that always seemed older than her years. She had grown up in the fields of Kansas, where her father taught her to read the winds and guide the family's small crop-dusting plane with hands too small for the controls, but a heart too large for fear. While others gasped and clutched their armrests, Clara's eyes darted toward the front, where the door to the cockpit had been left ajar by some miracle of chance. What she saw in that sliver of view would have turned most children to stone, the lifeless slump of two men meant to be the guardians of the sky. But Clara did not freeze. Instead, she stood. There was a murmur of disbelief as she made her way forward, her steps small but determined, like a child walking against the wind of destiny. A stewardess tried to stop her, her voice trembling, but Clara's words rang with a clarity that silenced doubt. Someone has to fly this plane. In that moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. She slipped into the cockpit, the air heavy with the scent of metal and the faint hum of failing order. The instruments blinked their warnings like angry eyes, and the wheel seemed to wait for a master's touch. Clara reached up, her fingers trembling, and laid them on the controls. She remembered her father's voice on summer afternoons, the way he taught her to feel the plane as an extension of her own soul. "Trust the wind," he used to say. "It wants to carry you if you let it." With those words echoing in her heart, Clara pulled herself into the captain's seat. The plane groaned as if testing her courage. Dipping lower, the engines roaring like beasts untamed. Clara bit her lip, her eyes scanning the instrument she barely knew but instinctively felt. The radio crackled with distant voices, urgent and panicked, as ground control had realized the plane was unresponsive. A stewardess handed her the microphone, her hand shaking, and Clara spoke into it with a steadiness that did not belong to a child. "This is Clara Mae. The pilots are asleep. I can fly." The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the static hiss of fate listening in. Then came the voice of a man from the ground, calm and low, like a lantern in the dark. "Clara, we're going to help you. Just do what you've always done. You can do this." And so began a dance between earth and sky, between the steady instructions of strangers far below and the fierce heart of a girl who dared not fail. As the minutes crawled on, the cabin behind her fell into a hush, every passenger clinging to hope in the form of a child's courage. Clara's small hands gripped the wheel, her feet barely reaching the pedals, yet somehow she coaxed the great bird back into balance. "Ease it up," the voice from the radio guided. "Steady hands." Sweat gathered on her brow, her breaths shallow, her heartbeat a drum that filled the cockpit. Clouds rolled around them like ghosts, and the plane cut through with a grace that seemed almost supernatural. Some swore later that they saw a strange light around the aircraft, as if the sky itself had chosen to protect her. Clara's eyes never left the horizon, steady and bright, her spirit rising to match the challenge. At 30,000 feet, with the world's weight upon her, she became not a child, but a legend in the making. Then came the storm. Dark walls of cloud rose like mountains before her, lightning flashing like swords in the heavens. The passengers cried out, the stewardesses clutched the seats, but Clara's jaw tightened. She remembered her father's words again. "A storm is only a test. Trust the wings, trust yourself." The radio crackled warnings, but Clara already knew what she had to do. She banked the plane with a precision that stunned the voices on the ground, diving beneath the worst of the clouds, skimming through the tempest with nothing but instinct and faith. The engines wailed, the fuselage shuddered, but the girl held steady. Every flash of lightning lit her face with a determination far beyond her years, as if the storm itself bowed to her will. And in that roaring chaos, the legend of Clara Mae was carved into the skies. At last, through the veil of darkness, the lights of a runway appeared below like a promise kept. The ground crew held their breath, fire trucks ready, ambulances waiting. Clara guided the massive plane downward, her small voice whispering to herself, "Easy now, easy!" The wheels touched down with a screech, sparks flying, the bird of steel finally bowing to the earth. The passengers erupted in cries, cheers, and prayers of thanks, some weeping openly, others falling to their knees. Clara sat frozen in the cockpit, her hands still gripping the wheel, her chest rising and falling with the heavy breath of one who has wrestled with fate and won. The pilots were carried out alive, their collapse later blamed on a mysterious gas leak, but none could deny that it was Clara who had saved them all. In that moment, she was no longer just a child. She was the sky's chosen daughter. When the story spread, it was told with awe, embroidered with wonder, and carried from town to town like a hymn of courage. Some claimed she had been guided by angels. Others said the spirits of old pilots had whispered in her ear. But all agreed on one truth: the girl had done the impossible. Clara Mae returned to her Kansas fields, where she lived quietly, her fame fading into the folds of time. Yet in the hearts of those who believe in miracles, her story still soars. They say that when the wind brushes the wheat fields just right, you can hear the whisper of her father's words, and somewhere high above, a little girl's laughter echoes across the sky she once tamed.